Git init. Welcome to this presentation on the git init command. In this presentation, we'll explore what git init is, why it's important, and how to use it effectively. To begin, git init is a fundamental Git command that is used to create a new Git repository. When you run git init in a directory, it initializes a new Git repository in that directory, allowing you to start tracking changes to your files using Git. Git is a powerful version control system that helps developers manage and collaborate on code projects. By creating a Git repository with git init, you can start tracking the history of your project, making it easier to manage changes, collaborate with others, and revert to previous versions if needed. The git init command is typically one of the first steps you'll take when starting a new project or when you want to start using Git to manage an existing set of files. It's an essential tool for any developer or team working on a code-based project. Now, let's dive into the process of creating a new Git repository using the git init command. To get started, you'll need to open a terminal or command prompt and navigate to the directory where you want to create the repository. This could be an existing directory with files you want to start tracking, or a new directory you're creating for a new project. Once you're in the desired directory, you can run the git init command. This command will create a Git directory in your current directory, which is where Git will store all the information about your repository, such as the commit history, branches, and other metadata. After running git init, your directory is now a Git repository, and you can start tracking changes to your files using Git commands like git add and git commit. This is the first step in setting up a new Git-based project or integrating an existing set of files into a Git-based workflow. In addition to creating a standard Git repository with a working directory, you can also initialize a bare repository using the git init command. A bare repository is a special type of Git repository that doesn't have a working directory. This means that you can't directly edit files in the repository, but it's often used as a central hub for collaboration or as a remote repository that developers can push and pull changes to and from. To create a bare repository, you can use the bare option when running the git init command. The command would look like this: git init bare. This will create a .git directory without a working directory, making it a bare repository. Bare repositories are commonly used in a distributed version control system where multiple developers can push and pull changes to and from the central bare repository. Bare repositories are an important concept in Git, as they provide a way to set up a central repository for collaboration and sharing code among a team of developers. Another useful feature of the git init command is the ability to initialize a Git repository in a subdirectory of an existing directory. This can be particularly helpful if you have a larger project with multiple components or modules, and you want to track changes to a specific part of the project independently from the rest of the codebase. To create a Git repository in a subdirectory, you can simply navigate to the subdirectory in your terminal or command prompt and run the git init command, cd myproject/subdirectory git init. This will create a new .git directory within the subdirectory directory, allowing you to start tracking changes to the files in that subdirectory using Git. This can be a useful way to manage complex projects and maintain separate version control histories for different parts of your codebase. Initializing a repository in a subdirectory is a powerful feature that gives you more flexibility in how you structure and manage your Git-based projects. Another advanced feature of the git init command is the ability to initialize a repository using a custom template. By default, when you run git init, Git creates a standard set of configuration files and directories in the .git directory. However, you can also initialize a repository using a custom template, which can be useful if you have a specific set of configurations or hooks that you want to apply to all new repositories. To initialize a repository using a template, you can use the just template option when running git init. The command would look like this: git init template equals path to template/directory. In this example, /path to template directory is the path to the directory containing your custom template files. When you run this command, Git will create the new repository using the files and configurations stored in the specified template directory. Using a custom template can be a useful way to ensure consistency across multiple repositories or to apply specific settings or hooks that you want to use in all your projects. This can help streamline your Git-based workflows and make it easier to manage a large number of repositories. Finally, let's discuss the scenario of initializing a Git repository in an existing directory. If you have an existing directory with files that you want to start tracking using Git, you can simply navigate to that directory in your terminal or command prompt and run the git init command. For example, let's say you have a directory called My Project with some files in it. You can navigate to that directory and run cd my project git init. This will create a new .git directory within the My Project directory, effectively turning that directory into a Git repository. Once you've run git init, you can start using other Git commands like git add and git commit to start managing the version history of the files in your project. Initializing a Git repository in an existing directory is a common workflow, as it allows you to easily integrate an existing set of files into a Git-based version control system. This can be particularly useful when you're starting a new project or when you want to start tracking changes to an existing codebase. In summary, we've covered a lot of important information about the git init command in this presentation. To recap the key points, git init is used to create a new Git repository in the current directory. This initializes a new .git directory, which is where Git stores all the information about the repository. You can create a standard repository with a working directory or a bare repository without a working directory. Bare repositories are often used as central hubs for collaboration in a distributed version control system. You can initialize a repository in a subdirectory of an existing directory, which can be useful for managing complex projects with multiple components or modules. You can use a custom template when initializing a repository to apply specific configurations or hooks, helping to ensure consistency across multiple repositories. You can initialize a repository in an existing directory, which allows you to start tracking changes to an existing set of files using Git. Understanding the git init command and how to use it effectively is a crucial skill for any developer working with Git. It's the first step in setting up a new Git-based project or integrating an existing code base into a Git-based workflow.